Hello guys, today we'll take a look at the Type 71, which will be one of the best tier 10 heavy tanks after the buff. So here we can see all the buffs for the Type 71, first buff being the buff to the dispersion of the gun. The dispersion without the gun cooling mechanic is now about 10% better, and the dispersion with the gun cooling mechanic is almost 25% better, so this means that the gun will be much more accurate in both of the modes, and in the accurate mode it will be extremely accurate. For the second and third buff, it is to the mobility, the 5 kilometers buff to the top speed and the 2 kilometers buff to the reverse speed will definitely make this tank a lot faster, because you have the power of the engine to go this 40 kilometers an hour. Now with turbocharger you can go up to 45, so this will be finally not as slow, because going 35 kilometers an hour with this tank wasn't a great experience. The cupola got buffed by 40 millimeters. Now even some tier 8s won't be able to pen it, so that's pretty nice, but the cupola is still a weak spot. It's huge, it isn't the biggest one, but you definitely can hit it pretty easily. The more important buff is to the front armor, which has been buffed by 45 millimeters, which gives it over 25% buff. So now you will be able to bounce some shells with the whole armor if you angle it or use your gun depression, because as we can see here, before the buff you were basically a paper tank. Everybody could penetrate you into the hole, but now after the buff we have much more armor here. If we angle, the standard shells will not pen us. Definitely not many tanks will be able to do that. On the gold shells they will be able to pen us, but sometimes you can bounce. I definitely bounced some even gold shells, so this is another pretty great buff. And now we will take a look at the Type 71 on the test server. I will show you only one battle, because I will definitely make a video on this tank after it will go on to the live server. And even though the buffs aren't maybe the biggest, some people would maybe think that or say that, this tank will definitely be much better, because everything got buffed quite massively. 25% on some things. The accuracy was great already with the gun mechanic, but now we are the most accurate tank, and this is by far. Even the STRV is much more less accurate than us, and with that we will be able to basically hit anything even from a couple hundred meters, so this will be great. Of course we have to wait for some time to use this mechanic, but now even the gun without the mechanic is more accurate, so this is pretty great. And the whole armor buff is great as well, but we won't be using it here, because now you can bounce some shells. If tanks have around 300 millimeters penetration, you can bounce if you use your gun depression. And basically this tank got rid of all those bad things, because before it was pretty slow. It was like a fake obstruction, because you felt like you could go faster, but unfortunately you couldn't, because there were some obstructions. Now going 40 is okay, and even though this tank got buffed pretty massively, as I say, I don't think that this will be the best playing on the front lines. But definitely it will be a great tank if you want to play on the, I would say, 1.5 layer of the game. So you don't fight head to head, because you still have a cupola, and even though it got buffed, you can see here that it is a pretty big cupola. So even if you use your gun depression, that you have technically 12 degrees, you have the hydro suspension, so you won't use those all 12 degrees to hide your cupola, so only 7 degrees. And that means that it will be still pretty well visible. So now for the battle, we are sniping a bit, not pushing this side, because we had damage to do. We dealt already 2000 without the blind shot combined, now 2400, so pretty nice. We are losing this game by quite a bit, but still it is easily winnable. It's only a start, and yeah, this gun is just so much accurate. We can see here that the FV just, we could hit him in the tracks from like 500 meters, and the circle wasn't that huge, so I could have aimed on the trucks, and thanks to that I managed to hit him. And yeah, definitely I recommend grinding this tank after the buff. This will be a pretty great tank. You don't even need to use gold on the Type 71 because you are pretty accurate, and the standard shells are okay. Of course I'm using because we are on the test server, so everybody is using gold. I could have used it without, but it was still pretty okay experience. Now we managed to get into the battle more or less because we won the right flank. So as you can see here, the whole armor managed to bounce the 60 TP, and he wasn't shooting the AP. As you can see here, he was shooting hits. So now you definitely will be able to bounce shells. Unfortunately, with this tank, you now won't be able to tell yourself that the RNG did you dirty, because you will be able to hit everything. I mean, you can go up to, I think, 0.15 maybe this per run. That it will be just insane. Of course you have to shoot like 10, wait for the 10 seconds, or I don't know how much the gun is cooling, but you don't need to. The buff to the gun dispersion without the gun mechanic is pretty huge as well. I mean, it's like a free it is like a free aiming pointer for you, so that is a great buff. The whole armor buff is as well great. Also the fire buff is great as well, because before this tank liked to fire, and now you will be definitely not as lit. So for the battle we are winning because we have 600 more HP, and now I managed to kill the mouse. 6000 already, and we have 12 degrees of gun depression, which is another great thing about this tank. Unfortunately, it is because of the suspension, which I hate using, because it makes your aiming much worse. You just jiggle around, so you can't really concentrate on that. But it's still better to have 12 degrees than the 7. And yeah, this game is just showing the potential of this tank. You can snipe, you can fight up close, you can have some speed, you can use your DPM, you don't have to wait for the gun accuracy, and if you manage to wait for that, you are just so much accurate that you can hit almost anything. So the battle is won already. We want to find the Manticore, nothing more will happen. But yeah, I mean, I will definitely make a video on this tank. Unfortunately, I didn't make videos for the few weeks, so I'm sorry, but yeah, I just wasn't able to do this. But now I'll try to show you some tanks. Also, the Yoch will be definitely a great tank, although the buffs are not as great because the worst gun got buffed, so there had to be some leveling. And now for the score of the battle. So we did 7000 damage with 6 kills, definitely a nice battle. We also bounced, I think, 2 shells from the 60 DP or something like that. We have a Top Gun, Sniper, the High Caliber, the bouncing thing, the Ace Tanker, and some other medals. Definitely a great battle from our side. Only 1300 base XP, but without us it would have been probably a loss, so definitely a great game. I was using only gold without the premium and without any bonuses, so we lost 80,000, which is to be expected. And I played around 11 battles up to, I think, that or something like that. Managed to do 4200 damage with this tank on average, and I didn't play very well. Although I was playing on the test server, so players may play pretty worse. But yeah, this tank I definitely recommend getting I got this myself. So after the buff, it will be a pretty great machine. I definitely recommend to get this one. So thank you for watching. This will be all for today. Tomorrow or the day after, I will try and take a look at the Yoh, because it will be a great tank. Also, sorry for not uploading in the past 2 weeks. I will try to do better, and yeah, see you next time.